Hi everybody, this is Cheryl. For my prepping video today, I would like to talk about what new preppers need to do to get started in prepping. I am actually making this video for someone very close to me. I promised her I would do this to kind of help her get started and to ease her mind in being overwhelmed by starting out when you start out prepping. But before I get into it, I want to bring up the fact that today is 9/11, and I know that there are a great number of you out there that remember what happened on 9/11. I remember the day vividly. I'm not going to go into detail about it. I have personal feelings that do affect me that I'm not willing to share at this point. And but I want to let y'all know that I am remembering the day. I am doing things to honor the day. And this video is one of them. I am dedicating this video to those that were affected by 9/11. And there were a great many people affected all over the world by that day. And I encourage each and every one of you to do something to remember and to honor this day, this important anniversary. Having said that, I also want to say that an event like that should be encouragement for all of us to prepare. When I talk about prepping, I'm not talking about the end of the world, the apocalypse, the zombies. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about prepping for everyday life. Last night there was a lot of stuff going around, especially on Facebook about, remembering the fact that there were so many people that was going to bed for their last night with their families, so many things like that. And it got me thinking about, things happen every day in our life that do affect us and literally will change your life forever. And I have had events like that happen in my life that do change my life forever. And one of the things that came up when the video, or the person I'm doing this video for, and I were talking, the snowstorm or the ice storm that took place in 2007, both her and I were affected by that, each of us in a different way because we were actually in two different states, but we both were affected by that. And that should have been something that spurred us to start praying. Unfortunately, it didn't. I am still new to prepping. I am still learning about prepping. There's still a lot I've got to learn and, get my preps built up and that kind of thing. But the first thing I did was I got me a binder. And this is just one of my binders. This is actually my main binder. And I'm certainly not going to show you all the contents of it. But my first section, the first section of my notebook is labeled Basic Plan. And this is how I started, and this is what was suggested to me. And based on this one page, I have been able to prep in such a way that if my family needs something, we've got it. We're taken care of. Now, or we're working toward it. Okay. Now, the first thing I asked is, what kind of emergencies would come up in our life that would be life-changing? And some of them I put down was weather. Weather is probably the biggest thing that could be life-changing for us. A tornado coming through and destroying our home, or taking lives, or that kind of thing. That's a major big thing for us. Snowstorms or thunderstorms that would knock the power out. Now, that wouldn't necessarily be life-changing, but that would certainly put us in a position where we would need to use some of our preps in order to get through that period. We do live on the New Madrid Fault. Highly unlikely at this point, but not impossible. We don't know. We can't predict. So, yeah, it is something we need to think about. We need to prep for that. Now, having said that, it's not necessarily physical or material things, but it's also, what do we do? What happens? How do we, when an earthquake happens, what safety precautions do we need to take place? So it's skills, it's knowledge, okay? Some of the other things I have is loss of home due to fire or possibly eviction, or a tornado taking out our trailer. What will we do if we lost our home? Loss of pay. What if something happened and we lost our pay? What would we do? Okay, those are some ideas. You need to actually sit down and think about, what things do you personally need to think about that could cause your family an issue, and put those down. So you write down what your things are that could affect you, and then you would write down what your basic plan is. Okay, if there's a tornado, what are we going to do? How are we going to go about protecting ourselves? Okay? And sorry, I'm trying to get something off here. Seriously? There we go. All right, sorry, something popped up on his laptop. Okay, so for each of those things that I considered a problem for our family, I then made a basic plan for each one of those. What would we do if there was a fire? What would we do if there was a loss of pay? So we took each one and we, Then I took and I wrote down each one of those, and I wrote a more detailed plan of each one of those things that I considered the problem. Okay, so from there, I went into the basics of prepping. And the basics, of course, is food, water, medical, safety, and those are the kind of the basics that you want to kind of start with. So once you get your plan in place and you decide, well, this is what I need to put this plan into action, then you break it down. Okay, what do I need to put in place? Okay, so if it's, let's say an ice storm and your power is out, what do you need for that? All right, so then you want to figure, well, I've got to have some kind of heat, and I've got to have some kind of light. I have to have some way to cook. I need to make sure I have food and I have water. So you think about those things, and you put in place what you need to make sure you can fulfill that plan, okay? And once you get, your plan all worked out and you figure out what you need to put those plans in place, then you can go through the list of the food, the water, the medical, the security, those kinds of things. And of course, almost everything, you're going to have food and water. Water being the most important thing, and then food, and of course medical and safety. Those are the basics, okay? Those are the foundation of it all. But your plan is your overall, what you're building on, okay? Now, there's other scenarios. There's other things you have to think about. You know, one of the things that I feel like is extremely important, no matter what you prep material-wise, you really have to learn skills. Now, you can put into place the food, the water, all of that. You can put that all in place. But none of it is going to make any difference if you can't do it. If you can't cook on a rocket stove, what's the point? You know, you can have a dozen rocket stoves, but if you don't know how to use it. So that is the skill. That is the knowledge. That is the learning how to do it. So it's not just prepping the item, it's knowing how to use it. It's knowing how to cook over an open fire. It's knowing how to purify water. It's knowing how to perform certain medical issues. You know, do you know first aid? Do you know CPR? Do you know how to set a broken leg? It's learning how to do these kinds of things. It's not just the collecting of stuff. It's also being able to use that stuff and having the knowledge. So, yeah, you have to prep the material things, but you have to know how to use them. So you need to have the skills and the knowledge. In worst case scenario, and you're, starting over, building a community, do you know how to garden? Do you know how to raise livestock? If you don't, learn. Now, in my case, I am unable to garden. Now, I do have past experience with gardening. I've had gardens in the past. I was raised on a farm, kind of, sort of. But I spent a lot of time on a farm, I should say. But do you know how to garden? If not, start watching some channels that's going to teach you about gardening. Take notes. I have all kinds of notes, all kinds of notebooks. I have one that's just for gardening. And all these tips and different things I get from the gardening channels I watch. How do you collect tomato seeds? Guess what? I watch a video and I take notes. And those notes are wrote down in my notebook so that they will be there so that when I can start gardening, they're right there. Okay? If you're out and you need to chop wood, do you know how? Can you do it? You need to think about those things. So what I advise to new preppers that are just getting started is, number one, get you a notebook, make a plan, a detailed plan of what you need to prep for, the basic plan for each scenario, and then a detailed plan. Then you want to start collecting what you need to put those plans into action. Okay? You need to prep skills and knowledge. Okay? And of course, remember that the basics of prepping is food, water, medical, and safety. Those are the main things. Okay? What do you need to put in place to cover those things for each of your areas that you need to prep for? So prep those things. All right, I'm going to end it here. I will do more on this later. You all have a great day, and remember today is 9/11 and honor the day. You all have a good day. Bye.